So today I'm bringing you the alphabet of hepatitis. After all, there's A, B, C, D, E, well, you get the idea. The key here is that there's quite a few forms of the disease, and while some of them are fairly harmless and treatable, others are not, making this disease one of the most common afflictions worldwide, and yet one of the deadliest. Just to give you an idea, in 2015, the CDC reported more than 2 billion cases of hepatitis worldwide, with a staggering 1.3 million deaths. So what exactly is hepatitis? Well, the most common definition is a disease characterized by inflammation of the liver. Seems vague, doesn't it? Well, the exact type of disease that causes the inflammation is the very reason we have an awesome alphabet. But before I dive further into that, let me give you some history on how hepatitis was first discovered. The first breakthrough in our understanding of the disease came in 1963, when a young Dr. Baruch Blumberg discovered an antigen that detected the presence of hepatitis B in blood samples. At the time, Dr. Blumberg was actually researching the genetics of disease susceptibility, having no intention to discover a new virus, or for that matter a method to detect it. Nonetheless, his work led to a major breakthrough, and in 1976 he won the Nobel Prize for Medicine for not only his discovery of the disease, but his development of a vaccine. That's enough though on the history lesson, so without further ado, let's dive into some of the letters of what hepatitis is. For starters, the first and most common cause of hepatitis is the hepatitis A virus, which is contagious through direct vectors, usually spreading to others through food, drink, or objects contaminated by feces. Yes, I couldn't resist the opportunity to use a poop emoji. Now, while there is a hepatitis A vaccine, and it has helped to make the infection rare in the United States and other developed countries, it is still commonly reported throughout the world, with more than 1.4 million cases each year. Although a hepatitis A infection can cause severe symptoms, unlike other hepatitis viruses, it rarely leads to long-lasting liver damage. People who have recovered from a hepatitis A infection typically have immunity to the virus, which means no further afflictions. Next up on the alphabet is the hepatitis V virus. Being the much more sinister cousin to hepatitis A, hepatitis B is one serious infection, being that it's a double-stranded DNA virus of the genus Orthohepatinovirus, which contains a nucleocapsid. This encloses the viral DNA and a DNA polymerase that has a reverse transcriptase activity similar to retroviruses. Infection from the disease can lead to cirrhosis, permanent scarring of the liver, liver failure, or liver cancer, causing severe illness and even death. Worse yet, the hepatitis B virus spreads from person to person through blood or other bodily fluids, and can also be passed from an infected mother to her unborn baby. In the United States, the disease is most commonly spread through unprotected sex with someone who has the disease, or from injecting drugs with shared needles that aren't sterilized. Fortunately, there is a hepatitis B vaccine, but despite its conception, the disease still infects more than 300 million people worldwide. Hepatitis C, like hepatitis B, spreads from person to person through blood or other bodily fluids and can lead to cirrhosis or liver cancer. The most common way people become infected is by sharing drug paraphernalia, such as needles and straws. People can also get hepatitis C from unprotected sex with an infected partner, and it can be passed from an infected mother to her unborn baby. Hepatitis C is the most serious type of hepatitis and is a small, enveloped, single-stranded, positive-sense RNA virus. It's now one of the most common reasons for liver transplants in adults each year, and infects more than 41,000 people in the United States alone. Symptoms for the disease are rare, with only 20% of those infected experiencing some sign of infection, and usually 2 to 6 months after the initial transmission. While scientists have been trying for decades to develop a hepatitis C vaccine, no one has been successful yet. Fortunately, medications can now treat people with hepatitis C and even cure them in acute cases. Hepatitis D is the rarest of the hepatitis diseases, with a morphological structure that is a small, spherical, enveloped virusoid. Considered by pathologists to be a subviral satellite, because it can propagate only in the presence of the hepatitis B virus, virus transmission of hepatitis D can occur either via simultaneous infection with hepatitis B, called co-infection, or superimposed on chronic hepatitis B carriers. Nonetheless, this disease carries the highest mortality rate when coupled with hepatitis B, with a 20% survival rate. Last but not least is hepatitis E, a viral hepatitis caused by infection with a positive sense single-stranded, non-enveloped RNA virus. Hepatitis E has a fecal-oral transmission route and was first documented in 1955 during a strange outbreak in New Delhi, India. Since then, the virus has rarely presented itself in the population, due mostly to a preventative vaccine, which has lowered the worldwide case to only 3 million and a mortality rate that only accounts for 3% of the total deaths from hepatitis. While hepatitis E often causes an acute and self-limiting infection, the virus usually resolves itself and individually recovers. Infection rates are extremely low in the Western world. It does, however, bear a high risk for developing chronic hepatitis in immunocompromised patients, and even compounding with other diseases to substantially increase the mortality rate. Organ transplant recipients who receive immunosuppressive medication to prevent rejection are thought to be the main population at risk for chronic hepatitis E. That said, the major preventative factors are again washing your hands, getting vaccinated for hepatitis A and B, and if you're feeling rather lucky, hepatitis E, as well as taking the appropriate safety precautions when dealing with bodily fluids. All that said, I hope you learned a bit about hepatitis from A to Z, or in this case E, and can translate your knowledge to good use.